Hi there, everyone. I hope you're safe and well, and your loved ones are okay. Thanks for taking the time to watch this. So this is in replacement of the assignment workshop that we would have had on Tuesday afternoon. The piece that's missing would be you kind of getting into groups together and sharing ideas around what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. If you would like me to set something up around that, a workshop via Zoom, do let me know. Do send me an email, and I'm sure I could organise that for you. So to begin, bear with me while I navigate myself around the share function here. Okay, so here as it says on the tin, so assignment support. So just a reminder, so for you folks doing level 3, it's 3,000 words, and it's a critical discussion of your learning from the module and how this learning will influence your practice with children and young people. So it's a piece of reflection. And then at level M, it's a 3,000 word critical evaluation. And they're two very different components, and how this learning will influence your practice with children and young people. So the difference between those two pieces of work, I have put in the folder on Blackboard an example of a level 3 assignment, and it was for a different module that I ran, and it got a really good mark. So I thought I'd give you an example of something that got an outstanding mark. I think they got 81 or something. And then I've also put up an example of a level M piece of work, which is a piece of reflective work. So it gives you an idea of what writing is at level M in terms of being evaluatory rather than discursive. So please do have a look at those. But I'm going to go through those a little bit in a minute, because there's a couple of things I wanted to show you from there. So in terms of the assignment brief then, so discuss content. So that's either theoretical or practice-based from each of the sessions. Importantly, that you found particularly interesting, memorable and challenging. So I can't emphasize this enough. I don't have a list of all the content from each session, and I'm not expecting you to kind of regurgitate all of that content and I tick boxes that you remember. This is important, that you found particularly interesting, memorable and challenging. Okay, so what critically appraise the content that you're discussing is, why did you find that interesting, memorable and challenging? So that's what that is. Okay, critically evaluate the literature around the content you're discussing. When you talk about why you found it interesting, memorable and challenging, you'll be relying on the literature. You'll be relying on the references, the reading list, and the extra materials in the folders to kind of back up why you personally found it kind of particularly interesting, memorable and or challenging. Okay, so they kind of go together. So you don't have to have memorized everything from each session. It's really important that you just let yourself land on what stayed with you, and then to be thinking about reflecting on, okay, why did that stay with me then, and how does that connect with academic literature? And then the last bit of the brief is to critically reflect on the application of all of this stuff and its content to your own personal and professional development as a practitioner. So to say something about the kind of the structuring of it, do you use a reflective model or do you not use a reflective model? That's completely your choice. I don't want to be prescriptive. If there's a reflective model that you found that you'd like to use, then I'd invite you to do so. And if you don't, you don't. That's just completely fine. So I want to tell you a bit about the marking process. Oops, I skipped a slide there. So the marking process, there'll be 2 markers. and your work will be allocated randomly via Blackboard. And then scripts will be allocated marks using the marking guidelines. So I'm going to show you the marking guidelines now. Here we go. So, and again, I've put a copy of these in a folder, and that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. It's Friday. It's been one of those. It's been one of those weeks, hasn't it? Really, not just at work, but at home as well. Everything turns into a nightmare simultaneously for everybody. Here we go. No, this isn't it either. Bear with me. Here we go. Has marking guidance. Okay. So as I said, you have this. Here we go. You have this on Blackboard. So level 1, level 2, level 3. Here we go. So I'm going to start with level 3. So you will see that marks are allocated in bands. So 40 is the pass mark, 40 to 49, and then good is 50 to 59, and very good is 60 to 69, and so on and so forth. And then in the box on the right here, it directs markers to be looking for certain things. So you don't get deducted marks for anything. The way we mark it is as everybody starts with 0, and we're looking for reasons to give you marks. So this is really, really important. Okay, so we're looking through it and it's like, yeah, great, we can give them marks for this, we can give them marks for that. And I'm going to say a little bit about what attracts marks really easily before you even get into the guts of what you've written. So, and then at level M, here we go. Now at level M, because it's master's level, the bar is raised higher, so the pass mark is 50. And then they go up in 9s, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, and so on and so forth. And if you want to compare and contrast, if you're writing at level M and you want to compare and contrast, you can scroll between these two and just have a kind of quick look. What you'll notice at level M, that you can't just write descriptively anymore. At level 3, you can write descriptively and still pass. Critical writing at level 3 gets you higher grades. The bar it's set at a different level. If you've got a degree already and you're studying at master's level, it's a given that you start to be able to demonstrate some critical thinking. And I will show you an example of that in a moment. So as I said, this is up on Blackboard. So back to the PowerPoint for a moment. Okay, so there's the marking guidelines. We complete the marking by a set date, and the marks are then moderated. So what that means is Blackboard is used to allocate a set number of scripts to be second marked to someone who didn't mark. So if I marked some scripts, some of mine will go to the other marker and some of theirs will go to me. And the ones that get allocated automatically will be any that didn't pass and the very, very highest marks. And then a random selection, depending on how many people are in the group, maybe 2 or 3. And this is to make sure that marking is consistent. So, and I think it's particularly important, if people don't pass, to know that that is marked twice, and there's also an external examiner before it goes formally to the board to be signed off. Okay, so gaining marks. So some top tips. So as I said, where we start is deciding on whether the work is a pass, and then where in the pass banding it sits, and then we work from there as appropriate. So I'm going to no, actually, I'll just do this bit. So referencing at level M is expected to be consistently accurate to the required UE Harvard standard. So I'm going to say a bit about that. UE Harvard. I have put on Blackboard. This is something that the library use, and you can find it on the library as well. So it's a kind of piece of work, with a bunch of references in it. You'll see references there, and you'll see references there and there. You'll also see a quote. So it shows you when you do a quote, how you cite it. within the body of the text. This is a kind of really useful document, but the two assignments I've given you will just back that up. And then when you come down here, you will see the kind of referencing format. This is kind of UE Harvard. So we open up your assignment, and one of the first things I'll do is head for the references and just have a look. And there's two things that I'll look at. Is one, is it referenced properly? So things like, look, you see name here, date here, you see the title of the book is in italics, and then you have the publishers and the date accessed. If you come, and you'll see that consistently for books. When you get to academic papers, here's one from American Psychologist. The title of the article is in normal font, and then you get the title of the journal is there in italics, and that is the issue of the journal and the pages that article comes from. Okay, so that's just a quick example of the kind of level of detail that we're looking for in getting the references right in order to give you marks, basically. So we look at those, and something else that's really important is the number of references. So in terms of the number of references, basically it is 10 references per 1,000 words. So we're looking at 30 references, okay? So we'll go and we'll look and say, okay, how many references they've got? If there's 10 references, then straight away I'll know there's a problem. You can't write a 3,000 word assignment off the back of 10 references. So if I see if I see 30 references or more, I'm immediately thinking, okay, great, marks. If I'm looking at the referencing formats and I'm seeing they're accurate, like 100% accurate, I can say, marks. That kind of bumps you upwards. If some of you are thinking, God, I'll just be pleased to pass this thing, then that nudges you over the pass line. Something about the sources. So when you do referencing, I'm going to go back to, bear with me a moment, so I can find this paper here. You will see Dictionary of Sociology, Organizational Culture. There's I'm going to have a look at, here we go. So this is the level M piece I was talking about. Sorry, I'm making you seasick here. You look at the sources. So critical reflection, health and social care, learning by doing, a guide to teaching and learning, the Canadian Journal of Nursing Research, Quinn's Principles and Practice of Nurse Education Research. And you can see that all of the references, here's one from a website, they're all from credible academic sources. This is really important. So popular books, popular websites, they're certainly at level 3 and absolutely at level M. They don't count as credible references to kind of back up what it is that you're saying. So that's the third thing that we'll do, is we'll look at the references and we'll look at, okay, what have they been reading? And obviously the first thing I'll be looking for, have they looked at the reading list? And then, once I go, good, yeah, they've been reading the reading list, that's really good. And then if there's stuff on there that isn't on the reading list, that attracts more marks. You've really actually followed your nose and read off the reading list. You've kind of gone away and really looked into this. So as you can see, before I even read what you've written, I'm just going and looking at your referencing and trying to award some marks there. So next thing, so some more top tips. So again, in thinking about the structure of your work, what attracts marks. So with sentences, so see if I can find, okay, let's go to this here. So before we even get to the words in the sentence, just kind of the structure of sentences. So for example here, central to the learning process of the module was the writing of a reflective blog, full stop. There you go. That's not 5 lines without so much as a comma. Let's look at the next sentence. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's quite a long sentence, so let's read it. The work of Donald Shern is seen as central in raising the profile of reflection in professional practice for nursing and teaching. and both professions have embraced the concept as fundamental in developing and the maintaining quality of practice. Ooh, there's a typo there. There's an of missing. So you can see that is kind of like a coherent sentence. It's quite long. It's got a comma in the middle. So what we're looking for is, like, you know, your sentences reflect an idea and one sentence flows into the next. Okay, so this is as much about the skill of academic writing as it is about you showcasing what it is that you took from the module. It's a mixture of you showcasing what you took away, but it's about academic writing. So what else do I want to say? Oh yeah, so paragraphs. So this is really important. So your paragraphs are made up of well-sequenced themes. And so the paragraph, sorry, is made up of well-sequenced sentences and ideas, and then it's an overall theme. So a top tip here, when I'm writing paragraphs, what I tend to do is give each paragraph a heading, and that's the subject of the paragraph. And then when I read through the whole thing at the end, I look at the heading. So does paragraph 1 as a theme, what it's about, flow logically then into paragraph 2? What comes next? And then does paragraph 2 flow logically into paragraph 3? What comes next? I hope that makes sense. And then in each paragraph, the writing is about what that paragraph is about. And then the size of paragraphs. So let's see if I can find this assignment here. So you'll look here. If you look, what I'll do is I will look at the pages, and I will just see, oh yeah, okay, so this one here, there's 1, 2, and a bit paragraphs, 1, 2, and a bit paragraphs. So you can see paragraphs are quite large chunks of text. This is quite a big paragraph here, actually, but when you read it, it does hang together. Some paragraphs can be overly long. So if they're, you know, basically, when you look at your piece at the very end, what you want to be looking for is between 2 and 4 paragraphs per side of A4. If you've got, I call them lonely, homeless sentences. If you find yourself with a sentence or two just sitting there in the middle of a bunch of text, if I see that, then I know there's a problem with the structure of the piece. There's a problem with the flow of the ideas. So I can't award marks for good structuring of ideas and good structuring of content. So there's that there. Okay, what else do I want to say? No, that's not the right PowerPoint. I should completely have killed that one off. Here we go. Okay, so we've done structure sentences, structure paragraphs. Okay, content. So the content is relevant and it's logically presented and it's appropriately referenced. You know, you'll have this PowerPoint and you'll have those 2 assignments to look at, one at level 3 and level 11. And you can kind of hopefully look at this and then look at the assignments, and you've got some kind of good examples there. So when you're thinking about content at level 3, to gain more marks, you're moving beyond just reporting. So for example, you know, I don't know, Timmy and Smith 2017 suggest that children and young people's mental health is a function of the context in which they grow up. And then you move on to the next thing, you know, and Mackay and Sheffield 2009 had this idea first. That's reporting. So you're just saying this person said this, that person said that. That's just reporting. Comparing and evaluating, okay, Timmy and Smith 2017 suggested that children and young people's mental health is a function of the context they grow up in. However, Johnson and Jones 2018 argue that the importance of individual development is being gradually underestimated. Okay, those things aren't true. Those things didn't actually happen. I'm trying to give you like an example of, you say, you know, such and such and such and such say this, however, such and such and such and such say that. Okay, so that's what critical writing is. You're starting to compare and contrast different viewpoints. You know, so I'll be looking for phrases like however, on the other hand, you know, since this, it would seem that therefore, have a look at those two pieces and you will see the level 3, they really start to get up and running with it. And then when you look at the level M piece, you will see there's lots and lots of critical evaluation in there. The written style, so this is really important. It's a small detail, but it really, really counts. So it's appropriate to academic conventions. So what that means is you avoid things, truncations like it's, or would have, and ought have, and all the rest of it. And so accuracy, written style accuracy. Again, if it's 100% accurate, I can award marks for that. If there's lots and lots of typographical errors and spelling mistakes and commas not in there and sentences not starting with full stops and with capital letters and so on, I can't award marks for that. So really simple things like getting someone else to read through and check for mistakes. A top tip. When I write an academic assignment, and I'm still studying, I will get someone else to read it to me. That really is such a top tip, because I will hear, as they're reading it, I will hear, and I will either kind of nod and just go, yeah, good, yeah, that makes sense, yeah, or I will go, what's that? What am I on about? That's just such a ramble. That makes no sense to me at all. And probably that my reader will as well. So, feel free to kind of enlist someone, to kind of give you a hand, and to just help you do that piece there. So what I wanted to do was just briefly direct your attention to these two bits of work. So this is a level 3 piece here. So I wanted to read through something. Okay, so this is where the student is kind of discussing the evidence base behind solution-focused brief therapy. So what they're writing is here: client satisfaction functioning as patient preferences and values is a key concept in guiding clinical decision-making for best quality outcomes. And there's some references there. And look, they use a quote, and look, they've got the page number. To measure clinical outcome, randomized controlled trials, RCTs, are commonly credited as the current gold standard. There's a little reference there. So this is really important. Reference everything that you say, okay? To measure clinical outcome, randomized controlled trials are commonly credited as the current gold standard. If there was no reference there, I'd be saying, says who? Well, do you say that? So a kind of reference point really in academic writing at this level, level 3 and level M. Just assume for now that you have no opinions. Okay, you just don't have any. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. That's just academia for you. When you get to PhD level, you've kind of earned your stripes to have personal opinions about things. At this level, when you say something, reference it. And that does two things. It says, okay, to measure the clinical outcome, randomized controlled trials are commonly credited as the current gold standard. So the person writing this has let me know that they know that. Right, that's the first thing. Good. I'm glad they know that. But the real slam dunker is they've shown me, I've done some reading, Fred. Look, there's the reference there. So that attracts marks. I cannot overestimate that enough. Is like you're showing what you know, which is great, and you're showing where you found it. You're showing that I know stuff and I've read stuff, and I've learned stuff from where I've read stuff. I hope that makes sense. And then just down here, there's some kind of, here we are, look, there's some great writing here. So although the evidence base for solution-focused brief therapy has been updated in many years, it could be argued that some aspects of the approach remain unprogressive in modern times. And now comes, where did they get that from? Shannon and Gardner, 2018, criticized solution-focused practice for not addressing the structural nature of problem causation. Okay, so they're saying it could be argued, I'd be going like, well, by who? It could be argued that some aspects of the approach remain unprogressive in modern times. Well, by who? Oh, Shannon and Gardner. Oh, right, good, well done. And then They reason that the approach follows traditional therapy worldviews that focus on individual change, ignoring social change. Oh, that's interesting. In doing this, the client situation is not framed within the realities of social justice, and so on. And then down here, although it could be argued that through the principle of validation, solution-focused practitioners do acknowledge the client's context and difficulties. Winbold, 2011. So you can see there's a contrasting view here. So up there, they're saying, Shannon and Gardner are saying, well, this is just about individuals having problems and it doesn't take into account their situation. Okay, and then down here, Winbold is saying there's a process built into solution-focused practice that does take that into account. Okay, so there you go. So that gives you an example of level 3 critical thinking. It's very good. It's like, well, this person says this, however, it could be argued that because they say this. So I hope that makes some sense. And then at level M, let's look at something here at level M. So this is a reflective piece. And where am I going to go here? Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so while the principle of reviewing one's work, reflecting on strengths and considering areas for development seems sound enough, there's a reference, a number of writers have raised concerns about a notion that unexamined might be problematic. Okay, then the writer goes on to say, Cotton, 2001, for example, argues that the expectation to engage in reflection in nursing lays open to public inspection and organizational surveillance and control the private thoughts and feelings of practitioners in a way that is ethically questionable. Okay, so you can see there's two kind of contrasting viewpoints there. And then Quinn, bringing in another argument, comments on the irony that a profession preoccupied with informed consent seems to have little difficulty with a non-negotiable requirement of its trainees to engage in reflection that will be examined by those in authority and whose quality will be judged as an indicator for suitability for practice. So you can see the writers developing the argument for the kind of ethical considerations to be thought about when requiring people to write reflectively. So, and you can see it's a discussion. Yes, you can see it's not just reporting, it's kind of discussing something that's kind of, people say this, people say that, that's quite interesting, as opposed to this is the way that it is, and here's the evidence for it. At level 3, you can pass. You can pass by reporting a load of knowledge. Provided your references are okay. That bit's really important. You stick that in the bag. You can, if the references are absolutely awful and really inaccurate, or there are no references in the body of the text, it's very, very, very difficult to give you a pass mark. So hopefully you get a sense of the kind of complex matrix of criteria that go together to kind of awarding marks. To go back to the PowerPoint before we finish. At the bottom of the PowerPoint here, I put some live links, and these link into web pages in the UE library. I've kind of gone to look for those for you. So reading and taking notes. So if you haven't studied for a while, so there's some guidance there. Academic writing, that's the stuff that I've been talking about, really, like the conventions of academic writing. And then that kind of deeper stuff about critical thinking. And then this bit's really important, avoiding plagiarism. Some people end up falling into the trap of their work being investigated for plagiarism, not because they've deliberately stolen something. They actually haven't cited stuff properly. They've just said something and they've not referenced it. Or some people have just copied and pasted and stuck it in their assignment, and they haven't put quotation marks around it and cited it properly. And they didn't, they might have put a reference in, but they didn't put a citation. And so it looks like they're saying, well, this is my version of what that person said, and it isn't a direct quote. So there's more information on that there. So what I'm going to do now is come out and hopefully find a way of, I'm not quite sure how I can do this. I've stopped share now. And I'm just going to say thanks very much, and do get in touch. There'll be an email accompanying this as well. And I'm now going to go and record an interview with Laura Brain, who is going to do the workshop on Tuesday, so that you have some materials there for session 6. So I hope you're all safe and well. I hope this has been useful. If you need any help, please do get in touch. I'm really happy to arrange to meet up for an individual tutorial via Zoom, if that would be useful as well. One last thing, off the top of my head, I can't remember the submission dates. They're not emblazoned in my memory because there's too much other stuff in my brain at the moment. But just to let you know that if you cannot make the submission date, it's okay. Don't submit. Let me know you're not submitting so that I can plan my marking accordingly. There's a resubmission date. You will automatically be allocated to the resubmission date. You won't have to supply any evidence. Some of you want to crack on and get it out of the way. If you submit and you don't get the mark that you want, or you don't pass, you've used up that life, if you like. You can resubmit, but your mark will be capped at 40. If you don't submit at all, then you will automatically be moved to the new resubmission date and your mark won't be capped. Those dates will be in the email for you. So on that note, I'm going to sign off and wish you well. It's Friday, it's 2 o'clock. So assuming in your world weekends actually still exist as a thing, in my world, one day has merged pretty much into the next. And maybe talk to you soon. Take care. Bye now.